All right. 3, 2, 1.
Hang on.
Okay.
I don't want what's up, which is what I usually use because it conflicts with um, what's next.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to use hello again. I didn't
Hello
think.
again works.
You think it does? At the
It's,
last second, literally at the last second, when you said one, when you said one, I started second guessing myself.
well, it's better than howdy, y'all.
I was going to say how y'all doing, but that doesn't. That's not going to work.
Hello. I think hello again works. Um.
Hello again. Hello again. All right, count it
Yeah.
down.
All right. 3, 2, 1.
Hello again. This is the What's Next podcast. I am Pat.
And I am Sean.
And we are here to tell you, inform you, help you understand what to read next in the Marvel Unlimited app, which is an outspring of our 6-month behind podcast, just so we can keep giving you information because we don't have enough to do with our time. How you doing, my man?
I'm good. Yeah, we wanted to address an issue within the Marvel Unlimited community of, you pay your $10 a month, you get unlimited, you catch up on Civil War, you read maybe Secret Invasion, you read Disassembled maybe, you read the most recent Civil War, and then you're like, okay, what's next? What do I read next?
And we've seen so many people literally posting on Reddit, posting on Facebook, posting on Twitter, what do I read next? So we're going to begin a series of podcasts telling you what to read next, what's out there, what can I read next? And in this podcast, this episode, we're discussing the most basic thing, which is Fantastic Four, the 1961 series. And it addresses why Jack Kirby and Stan Lee are so revered in the comic book industry. Because people just love them.
Right. I mean, they're kind of. I mean, everybody knows Stan Lee. He's the salesman, and Kirby did most of the work. Kirby did a lot of the art. He changed the way that you do comic book art back in the '60s. He created the superhero genre of art style.
Yeah, and there's a lot of arguments. If you start talking to serious comic book people, you have Stan Lee guys and you have Jack Kirby guys, and we're not going to get into that as to how much work Jack Kirby did and how much work Stan Lee did, because there's a lot of contention between the two. But let's just say that Stan Lee gets all the credit. Stan Lee gets all the promos in the movie. Stan Lee is credit. Stan Lee gets all the money. And to be fair, Jack Kirby had to sue to get his money.
Yeah.
Jack Kirby had to sue to get his artwork back. And Jack Kirby really didn't get paid until, when was it, dude? Like just 3 or 4 years ago.
For real. Yeah, 4 or 5 years ago.
And what, in a very short summary, what happened is this thing worked its way through the federal courts for decades.
Jack Kirby himself had passed. This was his estate. This was his family now picking up, trying to get money that they were owed, because that was the money that Jack Kirby was owed from creating these characters and from essentially birthing the Marvel Universe.
Yeah, and it was what essentially happened is at the 11th hour, as a couple of days before they were going into the Supreme Court of the United States, Marvel settled with Jack Kirby because the precedent of them losing, which they thought they were going to, was going to cost them so much money and DC so much money that
it would have changed the industry.
They just paid Jack Kirby. No one knows how much because they signed an NDA, but they paid Jack Kirby a bunch of money for everything that we're going to discuss in this issue. So what happened?
Right. Well, and real quick, I know this is a Marvel podcast, but it's funny because there's another person who is analogous to Jack Kirby on the DC side. I don't know if you know who Bill Finger is.
I do not.
Bill Finger is the Ghost Rider of the original Batman for Bob Kane. Bill Finger came up with the design that is currently, or that is iconically Batman: the ears, the cowl, the cape, the yellow thing on his chest. He created the Joker. He created Poison Ivy. He created Catwoman, Penguin. He created the Batmobile. He came up with the Batcave. He did all of this, and for what, 70 years, was never credited with creating Batman. It was just Bob Kane. And Bob Kane actively attempted to undermine giving credit to Bill Finger, and just for the money, because Bob wanted all the money. And Bill Finger died penniless and alone in the 70s. And there has been a crusade over the last 10 years by hardcore fans to get Bill Finger's name in the credits for Batman.
Are they getting anywhere with it?
Yes, they've gotten pretty far with it. There's a whole documentary on Hulu if you want to go watch it. But if you just Google the name Bill Finger, you'll see it.
Huh. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So anyway, here's what happened. In 1961, the comic industry was dying, and it's a long reason as to why it's dying. We're trying to keep this relatively short. It was dying, and Marvel, which was Timely Comics at the time, had no superhero comics, none.
Right. The genre really didn't exist.
Right. DC had the Justice League and they had Superman, but it really wasn't selling very well. And this is where the story gets complicated, depending on if you listen to Stan Lee's version or if you listen to Jack Kirby's version. Regardless, they were a few months from going out of business.
Stan Lee was going to quit the business and change careers.
Yes. And Jack Kirby was going to go to drawing comic strips and newspapers. As a last-ditch effort, whoever's version you believe, they created the Fantastic Four with Fantastic Four #1. Mr. Fantastic, the Invisible Girl who became an Invisible Woman, the Human Torch, and the Thing. Mm-hmm. This was so revolutionary. Now, before I get too far, in your Marvel app, you go to browse. This is the Fantastic Four series in 1961. And this begins with #1. And this arc with Jack Kirby and Stan Lee, this was a 9-year arc that ran from Fantastic Four #1 to Fantastic Four 101. This time, the Marvel Universe, as we know it, didn't exist. There was nothing. There was no Thor, no Avengers, no Iron Man, nothing.
No, literally, Spider-Man was on the way, but he wasn't even around yet.
He wasn't around. When Fantastic Four #1 came out, that was all there was. So, as a last-ditch effort to save Timely Comics at the time, which became Marvel Comics by issue 2 or 3, they began the superhero genre. Now, the difference between what Stan Lee and Jack Kirby did and what DC was doing with the Justice League of America and Superman and Batman, which were still around, is in those comics, everyone lived happily ever after. They always got the bad guy at the end. Everyone always wound up smiling, and Lois Lane and Clark Kent always wound up happy. If you read Fantastic Four #1, they're fighting amongst themselves during the issue. Ben Grimm wants to beat up Reed Richards because he's a monster, and he blames Reed Richards for it. They're not living happily ever after. Half the time, the teams broke up. They're not happy-go-lucky characters. They don't always get the bad guy at the end. Dr. Doom escapes. Okay, it's not like, okay, they capture him and put him in jail and then he's no. He gets away. He defeats them and then gets away. There aren't happy endings to every story. This was a revolutionary style of writing. This had never been done in comic books before. The other side of it is I really appreciate comic book art, but I don't understand what Kirby did in the early days. But there's a documentary that I'm going to post, and all these notes are going to be posted on our website, 6monthsbehind.com. The number 6 or the number 6 monthsbehind.com. The email is 6monthsbehind.com if you want to email us about this. I'm going to post links to all of this, and there'll be a documentary there about Jack Kirby. And you will hear great artists, Jim Lee, Alex Ross, Neil Adams, explain how Jack Kirby's art, particularly as he stopped drawing 4 and 5 books a month and just drew the Fantastic Four, how his art changed what you saw, because it revolutionized the comic book world.
It was at that time, it was a brand new way of visual storytelling.
It was.
He pioneered that style of storytelling.
He did.
And I'm not a huge fan necessarily of Kirby's art. I don't look at Kirby's art and go, whoa, that blows me away. But when you look at it panel by panel and you really read it and you understand it in the context of the time that it comes from, you really have to take an appreciation as to how revolutionary it was at the time.
And I'll tell you what I did in understanding that this was written in the 60s, in the mid 60s.
Yeah.
To understand this, I went back and looked at some Golden Age Batman and some Golden Age Justice Society stuff and some Golden Age Justice League stuff. And dude, when you compare what Kirby was doing to that, you understand why all these people revere Jack Kirby.
Right.
I mean, if you just Google Justice League Golden Age art or Justice Society Golden Age art, and then put it beside Jack Kirby's, not necessarily like 1 through 20 issues of Fantastic Four.
But when you get into those deep issues of his run.
Yeah, like around like 30, 35.
Particularly the stuff with Galactus.
Yeah, you start putting that beside that Golden Age JLA stuff, that Golden Age Batman, Superman stuff, there is just no comparison. I mean, it just leaps off the page. The detail of the science fiction type stuff, there's no comparison.
And you see inspirations of it today in the movies, particularly that Doctor Strange movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Guardians of the Galaxy too.
Speaking of the movies, as I said, this was a 101 issue run. Let me tell you what they created in 101 issues. I'm going to run through this very quickly, and we're going to discuss this. In issue 1, you've got the origin and the Mole Man. In issue 2, they created the Skulls. In issue 4, you've got the first Silver Age appearance of the Submariner. In issue 5, they created Dr. Doom. In issue 11, they created the Impossible Man. In issue 15, it was the Mad Thinker. In issue 20, it was the Molecule Man. Yes, Owen Reese, the guy who just blew up the world in Secret Wars and is now fooling around with Galactus in the Ultimates. In number 36,
the guy that scares the pants off Galactus.
Yes, that guy. They created him in issue 20 back in like 1965. In number 36, you got Medusa. In 45, they created the Inhumans. 48, the Watcher. 49, Silver Surfer and Galactus. In issue 51, they created the Black Panther, the first modern black superhero. We're going to circle back to that in a moment. In number 55, the Thing attacks the Silver Surfer because he's dating the Thing's, or because he's with the Thing's girlfriend. Think about that for a moment. He attacks the Silver Surfer because he's with the Thing's girlfriend. You didn't see things like that in other comic books at that time.
Right. That was just something that didn't go on in the perfect world that Superman existed in.
It just, can you picture Superman beating up Batman because he's standing beside Lois Lane?
No.
It just didn't happen. In issue 64, they created the Kree. In issue 65, they created Ronan the Accuser. There's your Guardians of the Galaxy movies, and then they ended the run in issue 101. Those issues that they created in 9 years are the foundation of the Marvel universe as we know it. That's those characters. I mean, think about what that is. The Inhumans are becoming a television series. They're the basis of Shield. The Shield TV series has been on for the last 4 years and going into season 5. They're getting their own TV series. The Black Panther's getting his own TV series. The Guardians of the Galaxy are getting their own TV series. Dude, this is the Marvel universe. And we're not even discussing the fact that Lee and Kirby created the Avengers, created Iron Man, created Thor. Dude, this is just what they did in Fantastic Four.
Yeah. Spider-Man.
Yes.
X-Men.
Yes.
All those characters. Just in Fantastic Four, you had all of that, but then they created these other characters too. So this is the birthplace, the foundation, the building blocks of the Marvel universe that we know today.
Now, let's go back to issue 51.
Yeah.
In issue 51, they created the Black Panther. Now, they did that in July of 1966. Now, let's think about that a moment. This is July of 1966. In America, in July of 66, if you thumb through those first 50 issues, you don't see Black people in the comic books. You don't see African Americans in the comic books. You certainly don't see African American heroes. Why? Because south of the Mason-Dixon line in Texas, in Tennessee, in Alabama, they wouldn't sell.
Right.
Okay? Luke Cage, Storm, none of these characters were around because they wouldn't sell in the South.
Right. I mean, 1966 is smack middle in the middle of the civil rights movement.
This is George Wallace standing on the steps of the University of Alabama saying segregation now, segregation forever.
Yeah.
This is Martin Luther King in 1966 in the middle of the civil rights movement. This is the Little Rock Nine trying to get in a Little Rock high school, and they create an African American character who beats up the Fantastic Four.
Right.
Seriously?
Right. Cutting edge stuff at the time. Really brave stuff to do at that time.
Yeah, this is, if you're looking to understand the Marvel Universe, if you're looking for something to read, know the art's not great in those first 10 or 15 issues, but this is where the Fantastic Four begin. This is where the Marvel Universe begins. This is where it all starts, right here.
Yep. And that's why we decided with this first episode, we wanted to clue you guys in on this early stuff because, yeah, the writing's not great. And if you read it, it's real cheesy, but this is where it all started. So like we said earlier, the aim of this particular podcast is to direct you towards what's really worth reading, what's worth your time reading, and narrow down your choices when you open that Marvel Unlimited app and go, what should I read next? And you go to browse and you're like, I don't know what any of this is. So some other things that we're going to be bringing up here soon, we're going to dive into the Ultimate series, which was kind of a relaunch of all the Marvel characters back in the early 2000s and is the basis for the cinematic universe. We're going to get back into the beginning of the main Marvel universe again with the next run on Fantastic Four. We'll be doing some stuff with the X-Men, Thanos. We're going to basically be giving you, and we may not do it in order, but it's going to be, here are the highlights of the Marvel universe. Here's what is worth reading and what's worth your time.
Absolutely. And we look forward to doing it because as we skip around, there's so much great stuff in the Marvel app. And God bless Marvel, they just don't do a great job of presenting it to you.
Right. You have that Discover tab and it'll show you stuff sometimes, but it's not always comprehensive. It's not always good at leading you to what to read after just that one issue. And we're hoping to kind of, with a scalpel, with precision, hone in on the golden nuggets of the Marvel universe.
Absolutely.
So we appreciate you joining us on this journey. And we will see you guys next week when we will talk about another gem in the Marvel Universe.
Peace.
Okay, cool. That worked.
Yep.
It went well.
How long was it?
Oh, I didn't time it. 15, 20 minutes.
Was it? Okay. I didn't think it was that long, which we don't want it long. So that's perfect.
No, we want it 15 minutes, under half an hour, 15 minutes at most.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. Just hitting the highlights. And if it's something that we feel like we need to devote some real time to, we'll throw it in the main podcast. Yeah. Oh yeah, here we go.
But before you throw these notes up there,
well, too late.
Put a note in there. All right, I got it.
What'd you need?
I was gonna say put a note on there to discuss that podcast.
Oh yeah. I thought about it halfway through. Do we need to come up with another like theme music for what's next?
Yeah, I'll throw some more licks together. I was thinking about it the other day.
Okay. Just something to put in front of it so that when you start it, you don't go, oops, wrong podcast. And it's gotta have intro music.
Yeah. Well, if my app will open.
Uh-oh.
It's getting there. It's just it's slower on this air than it is on my phone. There we go. Let me look at the Clone Conspiracy real quick because it's been a week since I read it.
Yeah, it was something.
Okay. It's a great cover.
It was a really nice cover.
Who is this in the beginning? I didn't understand that.
Hang on. Let me go to it. Oh, it's Ben Reilly, Scarlet Spider.
Where is he?
Or no, it's Kane. He's in San Francisco. So on the very first panel.
Okay, what's he doing there?
He's a superhero in San Francisco. He's one of Miles Warren's clones from one of the other clone thingies.
Okay, I mean, I know who Ben Reilly is. All right. Kane is. Okay, now who's not waking up with the beard?
That's him.
Feeding people.
Yeah, that's him.
Oh, so he was having a nightmare.
Yes. Yeah, the first attempt at cloning Peter Parker was Kane Parker, and that from the very first Spider-Man.
No, yeah. I thought that was Ben Reilly.
No, it is. It's from, remember they had another clone thing that went on in the 90s?
Right.
And it's from that. But it turns out that he was the original, like Ben Reilly was Warren's like finished piece, whereas Kane was the prototype.
Oh, good God.
He was, he degenerated genetically and became mentally unstable. And I forget exactly what all happened, but yeah. Yeah, what he has to do with this, I don't know, or why we see him. I guess he's gonna show up at some point. So,
go ahead.
So is that Miles Warren under the Jackal mask?
That's the insinuation, but I'm
But
not really sure.
that's how I'm feeling. And if you go to page 9 and you look at we'll discuss it on the podcast.
That's the insinuation, but I'm not sure, man.
Yeah, we'll discuss it on the show.
I mean, I don't know why he's okay.
Because I have a theory.
Right. All right, I'm gonna try and recap this book, but it's confusing and it's good. So if I screw this up, let me know.
Well, okay. Do you want to just skim it again real quick?
I just did. Okay. I just did. All right, I got Spider-Man, Deadpool, which I'm gonna hate on. I got Uncanny. I got the 1.1. I got the World of Wakanda. I got Steve Rogers. I got Solo. Oh, you gave me Back in Black. I didn't read that.
Oh, well, I can recap. I can recap it if you need me to.
Okay, yeah, you recap it because I didn't read it.
Okay.
It's the one book the one book I didn't read.
That's okay. I didn't read Spider-Man and Deadpool.
Oh, okay. You didn't miss anything.
No, I don't think so. I'll count the books when I get done, and then
count. No, that's what I'm saying. You didn't miss anything when you read Spider-Man, Deadpool.
Oh, got it. Okay, I thought you meant on the notes.
No, I was saying you didn't miss anything when you read Spider-Man, Deadpool.
Well, okay, you ready?
Yeah, man.
Okay. Counting down in 3. Oh, who are we this week?
I don't even know. Somewhere I've got a list of who we can be.
We can be Stan Lee and Jack Kirby.
No, we've been them.
We can do it again. And plus, it's a nice transition into the podcast, into the new one.
Okay.
Wisdom? Do we have wisdom? If not, I can.
No, I've got wisdom. Okay. I got the page saved, so all I got to do is find my bookmarks. I'll find it. Yeah, I'll find it at some point during the podcast.
Okay. Intro ready to go? In your head, ready?
My head hurts. Yeah, my head's ready. Okay.
3, 2, 1.
What is up? This is the 6 Month Behind podcast for the week of 5/15/17. I am Pat.
And I am Sean.
We're here to discuss all the marvelous work in the Marvel Unlimited app. That's just flowing here out of the great minds of Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. I'm Jack Kirby's just sitting here drawing, creating things, and he's Stan Lee just sitting there shilling it for you. How you doing, man?
I'm good. I'm Stan Lee sitting here being old, talking about comic books.
Yeah, there you go.
And talking to watchers in space.
Yep.
Yeah, man. So with the Jack Kirby and Stan Lee thing, we wanted to tell you guys about another podcast that we're doing now. We're doing 2 because we can't contain it all. A show called What's Next, and it is specifically aimed at telling you what is worth reading in the Marvel Unlimited app. So you know when you get it, you have all these choices in front of you. You don't know what to read. You've read Civil War, you read Secret Invasion, you read a couple X-Men books, you read a couple Wolverine books. What do you read next? What's next? Well, we'll tell you. And in this first episode, we discussed the birth of the Marvel Universe,
which happens in 1961 in Fantastic Four. So it's there. It'll probably drop what, Wednesday or Thursday?
It will drop at a determined date of my choosing, which I have not determined yet.
Okay.
We have not determined yet.
It'll drop a day or two after you hear this. Let's put it that way.
And if you want to tell us what you think of the new show, you can email us at 6monthsbehind@gmail.com. That's the number 6 months behind @gmail.com. Please also visit our website where you can read more about the Fantastic Four and birth of the Marvel Universe.
www.6monthsbehind.com.
And Pat, I posed a question to you earlier.
Hey, did you notice I didn't screw the website up?
I did notice, which is that's a weekly achievement for you, because when you start messing with the website, you never know. You know, it's like a Jenga tower. You pull one thing out and the whole thing comes down.
Yes. Okay. You posed a question to me.
I posed a question to you earlier this week. If you were anyone in the Marvel Universe, who would you be?
I didn't understand the question. Go ahead.
So not who would you want to be, but who would you most likely be? Knowing yourself as you do, who are you most analogous to within the Marvel Universe?
See, and with that question posed, we're all going to be the Fantastic Four's mailman, Willie Lumpkin.
Okay, but if one of the heroes or one of the main characters of the universe, say you're transposed into the Marvel Universe, you assume the identity of one of the characters. Which one is most like you?
Yeah.
Do you want me to go first?
Go ahead.
Okay. So I had been giving this some thought for a few weeks, actually. And I started going, my Captain America, no, I don't. I'm not an inspiring leader. Am I Peter Parker? No, because I shirk responsibility. I'm not Deadpool because I'm not that funny. I'm not Iron Man because I'm not a genius. And I just kept thinking about it. And finally I came to, and just being really honest with myself, if I were anybody, I would be the Punisher.
Okay, I was thinking the Hulk because of your temper, but okay.
Oh, my temper's not that bad.
Have you read some of the texts you send me?
Have you read some of the text you send me?
That's why I'm thinking I'm the Hulk.
Well, you could be. Actually, I think that fits you pretty well. But here's the thing: is if I had the abilities that Frank Castle has, I think I would probably be doing what he's doing, which is just, draw a line in the sand. Good guys over here, bad guys over here. I got endless bullets. Let's go.
The problem is there's only like 4 people in the world on your side of the line.
There's plenty of people on my side of the line.
Okay, what's plenty? 20?
No. Let's talk about hundreds of thousands. Somewhere around 3 million, I might imagine.
Out of 6 billion. There you go.
Even more. I can find common ground with a lot of people. You know who I can't find common ground with? Drug dealers and murderers and rapists. That's who I can't deal with.
Okay.
Anyway, so who do you think you would be, Pat?
Either the Hulk or Wolverine because of my temper.
Okay.
Yeah. It would be one of those because of my rage.
Yeah, or maybe even the Thing.
Yeah, one of those 3.
Yeah, that could be. Well, you can sport the hat like the Thing does. That's the thing. That's a talent you have, is you can rock cool hats.
Dude, I bought like 4 hats when I was on the cruise too. 5, 4 or 5.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because he's always got the fedora or whatever. He's always rocking a cool hat.
Yeah, and I've literally spent like my entire adult life trying to control my anger, and I'm much better at it these days.
Yeah. I was very angry, cynical teenager. I've grown out of a decent bit of it, but okay. Nobody seems to believe me when I say that, but I'm way more mellow than I used to be. Anyway, not all the time. I have my moments, but I've learned to deal with it better. Anyway,
okay.
So we're going to move on to reviewing our books. Just to let you guys know, we are discussing spoilers in this show. We are discussing the major plot points of these books, so inevitably things will be spoiled. And also, considering that we're 6 months behind, we might have foreknowledge of things to come, which may also be spoiled. So just a heads up front.
Yes.
And starting off with our Spider-Man books this week,
we have the Clone Conspiracy, which you're going to help me review, because even though I have read it and then reviewed it again, I still have trouble figuring out what's going on in this book. It's a great book. That's not to say it's not a great book. It's very good.
It is actually really good.
I'm just, and my iPad just timed out. It's really good. This is a great cover. It's a really good book. This opens in San Francisco with one of the clones of Peter Parker from the first or second Clone Saga, God help us, which you tried to explain to me who he was.
It's Scarlet Spider, who is Kane Parker, who was...
I thought that's Ben Reilly.
Well, no, it's Kane Parker. Because Ben Reilly...
Scarlet Spider is Ben Reilly.
Well, it may not be the Scarlet Spider. I don't know. I think it's the Scarlet Spider. And that's Kane,
it's one of the clones living in San Francisco.
Yeah, Spider-Man clone living in San Francisco.
Okay, there we go. All right, so we skip from him doing something with some meds. I don't even know. And then we go back to where we left off in either the Clone Saga 1 or
Amazing Spider-Man.
Amazing Spider-Man, which is Doc Ock beating up Peter Parker Spider-Man with Gwen Stacy cheering him on. Again, fantastic art in this book, man. Just it looks good.
Right.
And
you have more of Otto Octavius explaining in classic villain style exactly his whole plan and exactly how smarter he is than Peter Parker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And until the Jackal, who we've discussed may or may not be Professor Warren.
Okay. So in previous Clone Sagas, the Jackal was Miles Warren, who's the guy doing all this cloning.
Yes.
And we have seen multiple clones of Miles Warren running around as like the grunts and peons of this Jackal.
Yeah, he's got like 3 of them with him when he shows up in here to stop Doc Ock from beating up Peter Parker.
Right. But the thing is, if that's Miles Warren, it's different from the guy under the mask, as far as we can tell. And everybody refers to the guy that's the Jackal as Dr. Warren, but I'm not sure he is. And if you look at page number 9, look at what he's wearing. He's wearing the same thing he always wears, which is a purple jacket and a purple tie with a green shirt. Who else do we know that wears a purple shirt with a green tie or a green shirt with a purple tie and purple jacket?
Oh, that would be Norman Osborn.
Yeah. Is it possible that the Jackal is Norman Osborn?
Of course it is.
Possible.
I mean, I'm not saying it is. I'm saying it's
right.
Possible.
Yeah, neither of us know. I'm just speculating that it might be.
Right.
I don't know. Just a thought. We'll find out.
Just a thought. So the Jackal proceeds to lead Spider-Man around, explaining to him that he doesn't really mean any harm. And Gwen Stacy is with him. And just the Jackal explains that this is all this is all for the good of humanity. That he just wants to save everyone. And he's resurrected all of Spider-Man's villains who have died over the years for good intentions, to make them a nice police force and to ease Peter's humanity that they ever died. And about that time, there's a confrontation between Captain Stacy, Gwen's father, who died, I don't even know how many years ago.
Yeah, 100 years ago.
Somewhere in the 100 issues of Amazing Spider-Man. I forget.
Somewhere in the late 60s, maybe early 70s.
Yeah. And about that time, we realized that it's not Gwen Stacy. It is Gwenpool who has infiltrated the area to help out Spider-Man. I don't know how she got involved, but somehow she did.
Yeah, I don't know how she got involved, but apparently she has infiltrated and taken Gwen Stacy's place and fooled Miles Warren.
Yeah, so then she escapes into one of the air vents. She and Spider-Man both do. He sends the lizard after her. Then we find that whichever Spider-Man that was originally has Gwen Stacy tied up in a trunk. Okay, Kane, fine. Has Gwen Stacy tied up in a trunk.
The original Gwen, the original / clone Gwen Stacy.
Yes. And then he's got a revelation there at the last page.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a real doozy. The things really ramped up in this issue.
Yeah, and you know what? As much as I wanted to hate on the clone conspiracy and the first two clone conspiracies, the one from the 70s and the one from the 90s, this was pretty good.
Yeah, it's not bad. And that's what I had heard is that, yes, it is more to do with the Clone Saga and these characters, and it has to do with all that. But it's actually done well this time.
Right.
Yeah, and of course that cover, which I'm not certain that that's a Alex Ross cover.
It's not an Alex Ross cover.
Yeah, I don't think it is. Who
looked at
the cover here?
I've already moved on to my next book.
Gabriel Dell'Otto. Okay.
Who is he's obviously heavily influenced by Alex Ross, but doggone, it's good.
Yeah. It's really good. So yeah, I think Dan Slott has been doing a really good job with Spider-Man. There are people who would tell you that is pure blasphemy and that I should be executed for even praising Dan Slott because he ruined Spider-Man. I don't get that.
Dude, just follow Dan Slott on Twitter for a week or a day and see the people that hate on him. And why he engages those people, I don't know. For the love of Pete, why he engages them.
He got into it with a guy the other day. I saw the exchange about the DC movies.
I don't know why he does that, but his Spider-Man books are selling and selling well. I'm going to be posting the sales for May's Marvel Unlimited in the next day or two. Probably the day, and I can tell you, man, it sells. His stuff, his Spider-Man stuff sells. It's some of the best-selling stuff that Marvel has. You can hate on him all you want to, but it sells.
Yeah, and it has sold. It's sold consistently for years. I mean, Dan Slott's been writing Spider-Man since what? Where they broke up Mary Jane and Peter. Maybe even years, before then. At least 10 years.
12 years. I don't even know.
And there's the cynical fans who don't like Dan Slott would tell you, well, yeah, but that's just because it's Spider-Man and he's Spider-Man. He's their most iconic character. And no, people are going into comic book stores and buying single issues of Spider-Man and all the related books because they're enjoying reading it.
I look at those sales figures monthly, and there's a lot of Marvel books that have A-list heroes in them that aren't selling.
Yeah. Wolverine being a prime example, there are Wolverine books that are probably doing okay, but are not doing Spider-Man numbers. And Wolverine is one of the hottest characters right now.
Yeah.
So I think Dan Slott's done a good job with Spider-Man. Yeah. Anyway, next up we have Amazing Spider-Man Renew Your Vows #1. For those who are confused by this, just a reminder that this is a continuation of a Secret Wars tie-in series. If you remember, in Secret Wars, when the universe ended, Doom reached out with his new god powers or whatever, and grabbed chunks of all the different realities and mashed them together into Battle World. And each section was a different, not just a different reality, but a different multiverse, has become a different multiverse in the new Marvel universe post Secret Wars. This one is one where Peter Parker never breaks it off with Mary Jane. They never lose the kid. She grows up alongside them, and at some point, Mary Jane became a superhero alongside Peter Parker, and the kids got spider powers, and it's just it's the Spider-Man and family story. And we actually have 3 stories in this particular issue. The main one involves a reintroduction of the Peter Parker to this reality. And it's, it's standard Spider-Man stuff. He's, at one point he's like he's swinging along on his webs, trying to make a grocery list in his head. And he has to stop a crime. And then he gets to the Daily Bugle, and Jameson says your pictures suck and I'm not going to pay you for them. And, there's all that going on. So, and there's some funny stuff where, he and MJ have some moments, and they reintroduce Anna May Parker, who's their daughter. And at this point, she's 8 or 9 years old. And there's a funny part where she's trying to like upgrade her dad's web shooter and blows it up, and just they walk into her room and everything's stuck to the wall, including herself and her pet turtle. There's some funny banter at the breakfast table about not using spider powers in public. And it's just it's a decent story. So at some point, Spider-Man's out saving the day. He gets in over his head. MJ comes in to rescue him. But also Anna May Parker, who has disobeyed her parents and decided to use her spider powers, has now gotten in over her head and has been captured by mole men. So presumably the next issue will be them trying to, the mom and dad spider heroes will be attempting to save their daughter from mole men.
Yes.
We also get 2 other stories, both of which are one-off stories with Anna May Parker and one of her parents. You've got one with her and Mary Jane where they're like trying on superhero costumes. And then you have another one that's really cartoony with like her and Peter, where MJ goes to work for the day and Peter's home. And so they're eating donuts and watching movies. And then he has to go out and do Spider-Man stuff. And it's real funny. But yeah, I enjoyed it more than I thought I would.
I did too. I did enjoy it more than I thought I would.
Yeah, it was, when the next issue comes out, I'm not going to roll my eyes and go, this again.
Yeah. Tell you what I didn't enjoy is Spider-Man Deadpool number 11. And here's the thing. It's not bad, but it's written by Penn Jillette of Penn and Teller.
Oh, really? I didn't realize he wrote this.
Oh, yeah.
Has he been writing it?
No.
Or is it just a one-off issue?
It's a one-off filler issue that he wrote himself in.
Oh, well, he would.
Completely shattering the fourth wall multiple times.
Well, Deadpool, it's a Deadpool book too.
And I mean, it's okay. It wasn't terrible. It was just, and here's the thing, what they're doing, and I respect this, is they're putting this book out twice a month. This is one of a few books that they're putting out twice a month. So to keep these things on schedule, and they did this with Deadpool a while back. They had one of the writers from The Big Bang Theory write a Deadpool book, and or was it this one? It may have been Deadpool and Spider-Man then too. They're having guest writers write it and draw it. Kind of.
Was it the one where they're on the movie set?
It was, wasn't it? It was a Deadpool and Spider-Man book.
That guy writes for Big Bang Theory?
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah. So in this one, they have Penn Jillette write it. I mean, it's entertaining. Deadpool winds up losing to Penn Jillette in poker. Keller winds up being Deadpool and helping Spider-Man fight somebody, and Spider-Man doesn't know it. And Deadpool winds up helping Penn do magic tricks for a week, and of course he winds up killing Deadpool in different ways because Deadpool heals. So there you go.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that was the one with the movie on the movie set was the one Scott Aukerman wrote.
Yeah.
I actually like Scott Aukerman. I think he's a funny guy, but that was and I mean I respect that they're giving non-traditional comic book writers avenues to try it or to just kind of break in. Maybe they did the same thing with Max Bemis with that X-Men book that you hated, and now he's writing what was the one that Fool Killer? He's writing that Fool Killer book, both of which or both of us enjoyed the first issue of last week.
Yes.
So I respect that, but the Spider-Man and Deadpool book as a whole has gotten a little off the rails.
No, I think the last couple of issues have been good when they're chasing that new spider villain. Was it TikTok? Is that her name?
Something like that.
Yeah, that's been pretty good. This filler issue has been so.
Yeah, okay. Moving on to X-Men this week, we have all new X-Men number 15. So when we last left off, Scott was in a fight with some kind of tentacle monster. So the fight continues in this issue, and for a moment it looks like he's done for, when finally Hank McCoy shows up and they beat the thing, at least momentarily. And Scott's like, dude, where have you been? You've been holed up in the lab for ages. Do you have anything to do with this monster that's attacking? What's going on? Hank's like, yeah, I've gotten in over my head. I've been messing with black magic. Doctor Strange told me not to do this. And Scott's like, black magic? What? What are you doing? Which I had a thought with this new Hank McCoy, because this is the young Hank McCoy from the where they went back in time and came to this timeline, not blue furry Hank McCoy. Do you think they're blending this sort of like, he's always been the super genius and scientist? Are they blending him now with magic and the arts, where he's going to be some kind of, in the future, he'll be some sort of scientist magician hybrid?
Well, that's what he wanted to be here, and
because if you think about it, he's
failed kind of badly.
Yeah, it's not going well for him.
No.
But he's, he had a moment with Doctor Strange when he was defeated. Doctor Strange kind of put him back on the tracks, and ever since then, all we've seen Beast do is interact with magical items. Remember, him and Kid Apocalypse had that mask of Mask of Horus, I think, and you had the whole thing with Apocalypse in ancient Egypt.
Right.
And so I'm wondering, because the struggle for this Hank McCoy has been, you took me out of what was essentially the 1960s and dropped me into 2016 or 2017. And I can't adapt to the technology because it's so far ahead of what we know. And he's a super genius, but he's having trouble adapting. And do you think that he will use magic to augment his abilities with technology?
I don't know. That being said, there's a throwaway line in there where Scott says, that's all right. You'll crack time travel eventually. And Hank says, dude, I cracked that weeks ago.
Yeah.
Right. I think crack time travel real quick 3 times in a row sometime.
Crack time travel, crack time travel, crack time travel.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's all going on.
I wanted to throw something through the monitor at you. One of my drumsticks, maybe.
Okay. So we move scenes over to the other X-Men who are in Miami for some reason. turns out monsters are attacking all over the planet.
They're all in Miami.
Are they? Oh, that's right. They are all in Miami. I guess this is part of this Monsters Unleashed thing that's gearing up. The Goblin Queen shows up, and there's a lot of X-Men fighting monsters. It was okay. I have not loved this all-new X-Men book, and this continues to be a mediocre foray into the new X-Men.
Yeah, I don't know where this is going.
At least the art's decent.
Yes. Yeah, there you go. Next up is Uncanny X-Men number 15, where we have Psylocke, who left Magneto's team last time to venture out on her own. And apparently she cracked Magneto's files before she left and is in the process of tracking down some of Magneto's enemies.
It's basically his hit list.
His hit list, basically, yes. And as she goes along taking them, and she takes out Sauron, takes out a few other people.
I thought that was... I wasn't expecting her to just straight up kill Sauron.
Did she kill him, or did she just incapacitate him?
She took him out, man. Looks like it. I mean, it looked like it to me. She was gonna kill Mystique if she could have. I don't think she was gonna beat her in a fight. But yeah, I mean, Sauron's a big deal with the X-Men, and all of a sudden you just shank, dead, gone.
Well, that's something we discussed last week, is when you take villains who have been A-list villains for, a long time, and then in a panel or two, just, whack them off. I mean, last week it was Blizzard fighting Spider-Woman.
Right.
And this week, we take Sauron and just, in what, 2 pages here?
Yeah, 2 or 3 pages. He's boasting about how he's going to tear her apart or whatever, and all of a sudden, dead. And I mean, eventually they'll find a reason to use him again, and he'll come back from the dead. But
yeah, I mean, I just, as I said last time, I don't appreciate. Yeah, that's the right words. I don't appreciate how they're taking
some of these villains and just.
I'm trying to remember there's a classification of villains, and particularly with mutants, where there's alpha level mutants and
omega
level. There's different level of mutants, and they're just whack them off, man. And I don't like seeing them do this.
Yeah, and well, sometimes you got to sacrifice a piece to advance the play, or some sort of chess analogy.
It's one thing to see her do something like that with somebody like Toad. It's another to see her, do this. Anyway.
Right.
So eventually she winds up in Chinatown. She winds up, Mystique is following her. There's a great fight scene between her and Mystique. And it's pretty interesting because she gets in Mystique's head and realizes it's all screwed up, and she fixes it for her. And Mystique doesn't exactly appreciate her rewiring her head for her.
She talks a big game. She barks a lot, but she doesn't kill her. She just lets her get away. She lets her go, essentially, and just walks away from her. So, I think that's a lot of her saving face.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
So anyway, and the whole time, Psylocke's trying to figure out if she's doing what she wants to do, or if she's doing Magneto's bidding this whole time.
Right. Yeah, she can't figure out if maybe she was supposed to do that.
Yeah. So, anyway, we argue about this because I enjoyed this book and you don't. And
I actually did like this issue.
Okay, good.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
it was a neat little story between just a Psylocke story.
Yeah.
Yeah. Moving on to the Avengers books, we have Uncanny Avengers number 16.
Yeah, you assigned what we review, and you got the good Avengers book, and I got the bad Avengers book.
Well, I didn't do it on purpose, man. I just went through the list and wrote them down.
All right, go ahead.
Um, so is this happening with you? Because I feel like now that Captain America's kind of not in this book, it's just turned in the officially this squad of Avengers is not really Avengers anymore. That it's kind of a Deadpool book.
No,
Deadpool's
maybe a X-Men book, but not a Deadpool book.
Well, that's true too, isn't it? Well, Deadpool is a mutant, so um, I don't know, man. It's just you get a lot of Deadpool in this. So Deadpool and the Avengers are having some trouble dealing with the undead Hulk that was raised by the Hand. So they decide to call in Cable along with Sebastian Shaw and Toad, who are working on getting a cure for the Mpox disease. And they're holed up in like a farmhouse in Kansas or whatever. So they're kind of laying low, just patching up from their most recent mission. They get a call saying, hey, we need some help with this Hulk. Cable's going in. And there's a funny scene where Sebastian Shaw and Toad are like, yeah, we're kind of in the mood to punch stuff because things aren't going well. Let's jump in this fight. And they stick their heads through this interdimensional portal that Cable opened up to like instantly transport himself to wherever the rest of the team is. And it's just Sebastian Shaw and Toad just sticking their head through the portal. They see what's going on with the Hulk and how bad the Avengers are getting their butts kicked. And they go, on second thought, I'll decline. And they're just like, yeah, this barn in Kansas has its upsides. It doesn't involve getting beat to death by a Hulk.
Yeah.
I thought that was funny.
I thought it was very funny.
So finally, Dr. Voodoo shows up with a plan to subdue the Hulk. And of course, it doesn't work. And the fight will continue in the next issue.
Yeah, there you go.
Because this book is essentially just burning time until Secret Empire, I guess.
It's not bad.
I
don't think it's burning time. I mean, it's telling a good story.
Yeah, I guess so. It's not as good as that Ultron story they told a couple issues ago, but it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm all right with it.
I literally have no idea. The next up is Avengers 1.1. And I don't know why or what this book is. This is an Avengers book told. It would take place between the original Avengers 1962 version, after Avengers 15 and before Avengers 16. And it begins with the original Avengers, Iron Man, Tony Stark, Thor, Captain America, Wasp and Giant Man defeating, I forget what this team called itself. It's Executioner, Enchantress, Black Knight, Mysterious Melter. They defeat them. They decide they're tired of being Avengers and turn to Captain America and say, hey, we're tired. Here, you lead the team. When they leave him with Hawkeye, Scarlet Witch, and Pietro.
Quicksilver. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, who were all villains at the time.
Yeah.
And, they go out and announce the team, and it's a screwed up team because Wanda and Pietro really don't want to be there. They're all fighting. Hawkeye wants to be in charge. At that point,
it's a cluster.
The Frightful Four decide this is a great time, who were the Wizard, Trapster, Medusa, who at that time was on the run from the Inhumans.
I was going to ask what that was about.
Yeah, you got to go back and read the Fantastic Four time. She's trying to get away from Black Bolt.
Okay.
But basically, if I remember correctly, it was going to be a forced marriage. She didn't really want to do it. She was kind of on the run from the Inhumans for a while and the Sandman. So, they're on the run from the Inhumans. And then they decide it's perfect time to attack the Avengers. And there you go. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm sure we'll get a 1.2 and a 1.3. And neither of us are really sure why they're telling the story now.
No. Knowing what I have no idea why.
Yeah. Okay.
I tell you what I really think happened is they introduced Medusa with no thought whatsoever, and then decided to give her the backstory in the Inhumans and kind of changed it as they went. Because Lee and Kirby were making this stuff up as they went along.
Right. Yeah. It was an interesting time in the 60s.
Yes.
Anyway, moving on to our main just 616 universe stuff here. We've got Invincible Iron Man #1. Finally, what we've all been waiting for, the official debut of Riri Williams as Iron Man. Or I guess Ironheart. Is that what is she's going by Ironheart?
Yeah, I think so. I think Ironheart.
Because she's not technically not a man, which makes sense. Sure, whatever. So it begins with Riri as a child. Her school counselor, she's been having school problems and behavioral problems at school. And her counselor is telling her parents that she has a very high intellect. And, you know, he explains to them this is not just that she's gifted or really smart or has a high IQ. It's that she's smarter than everybody. She's smarter than me. She's smarter than you. And this is almost a special needs case. That's how smart this girl is.
Yeah, she doesn't fall into the genius category. She falls into the
Super
Einstein
genius.
super genius category.
Right. The Reed Richards category.
Right.
So he kind of gives them some guidance on how to handle the situation, but he instills in them to instill in her a love for the world around her and to appreciate the world. Fast forward to present day, Riri is in full swing as Iron Man, taking out some monsters, again with the Monsters Unleashed thing. Back at home, this shadowy government agent delivers a package to Riri. Inside is Tony Stark's AI, which, if you remember from the end of Civil War, which none of us have read yet because it hasn't shipped on time, Tony Stark's in sort of a coma-like thing, but he uploaded his consciousness into an AI that he is now distributed to one of two people that we know of, Riri Williams and Dr. Doom. Well, Victor Von Doom.
Let me, because this is so confusing. I'm sorry. Were you done reviewing?
Not quite.
Okay.
Well, so what you're going to have now that they set up in this first issue is you've got the Tony Stark AI running her Iron Man armor, which is similar to the Jarvis or the AI that runs Iron Man's armor. I guess it's Friday these days. So what you have here is this Tony Stark mentoring his replacement in a Bruce Wayne, Terry McGinnis, Batman Beyond sort of way. And I'm looking forward to it, man. This is cool to me.
Because Civil War is so convoluted in its shipping dates, this is a spoiler moment. If you don't want it, we warned you. Stop, skip, do whatever you want to do. Cut it off, come back next week. You've been warned. Okay. When you see Tony Stark's AI here, that's not two different AIs that are talking to Dr. Doom in one. That AI is a character / person in the series. It's one AI. And I'm going to tell you, as the weeks and months unfold, that AI is going to become a fun and entertaining character. And
I can imagine. Because it's essentially just a digital version of Tony Stark.
Yes, it is a digital version of Tony Stark, and it is going to take on a life of its own.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a great book. Loved it.
Yeah, it's
I'm looking forward to more.
I don't know where we're not getting these books in order, which is a pain in the butt, but it's that AI is going to become entertaining.
I'm looking forward to both. I'm looking forward to Riri Williams and Victor Von Doom as Iron Man.
Yeah.
It's going to be cool, man.
Yeah. So there you go.
Yeah.
Captain America, Steve Rogers, number 7. We begin with Steve Rogers in school back in 1935. And while he doesn't have any physical abilities that he has manifested, his leadership and his intellect are manifesting itself in ways that are greatly impressing his teachers, his instructors. And then we cut to the Red Skull, who is taking Hydra and leading his way across Europe. And then we cut to Captain America and Dr. Selvig, who are trying to figure out how to stop him. And Dr. Selvig's getting pretty freaked out by it. Red Skull's next stop is Sokovia. And then we see Sharon Carter making a speech somewhere about it. And for those who don't think that Captain America or the Red Skull are Nazis, this page pretty much, sets it aside for you because they are. Yeah. Technically, she calls them fascism. If you look up, if you look up fascism and Nazism, the definition of the two, you're splitting hairs if you don't call them a Nazi. Okay, you just are. Right. So
and not so much, it's like when you call someone a Nazi now, it's not that you think that they were a part of the Nazi party in the 1930s from Germany. It's you're calling out the symbolism that is that ideology.
Yes. So a group of guys don't like the way that Steve's being favored by his teachers because of his leadership and his skills. So we see him about to get beat up and he's saved by someone. We don't know who that someone is yet. Then we go back to seeing Captain America and the Black Widow fighting there in Sokovia. And then the Red Skull cuts a deal with the leader of the Sokovia. And when it's all said and done, we find out that the guy who saved Captain America was his old enemy. No, wait, friend, Helmut Baron Zemo, who are now best friends.
Yep.
Because, the world's upside down.
Yeah. But don't worry, Captain America is not really a Nazi.
No, he's not really a Nazi.
Who's writing this, who made Captain America a Nazi.
Yeah.
Anyway, whatever.
Yeah.
Just wake me up when Secret Empire's over.
Yeah.
What sucks about this is that, you know what? It's not a terribly written story. It's interesting. It's entertaining. I could stomach this if it were a what if story. And to give a little bit of room for Nick Spencer, he didn't know what the world was going to look like in 2017 when he wrote this probably 2.5 years ago. And part of why this series is so ill received is because of the state of the world currently, which he had no way of predicting. But them's just the dice, man, and you need to just cut. Sometimes you just got to cut bait and call it.
And
I know you got to sell books, dude. I know you want to sell the books, but it is what it is.
I'm with you, man. I'm buying Secret Empire off the newsstand. I'm reading it. A great issue came out this week. At the end of it was a huge revelation. There's a 30-minute interview with Nick Spencer on ABC News that I haven't got around to watching yet, and I want to. I don't know, man. I don't know.
I genuinely think if the world were not as it is today, if we had not all experienced the tragedy of 11/8, the world, the story might be the story might be received a little more,
Oh my God.
a little better. It would probably be selling a little bit better, but 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 we live in a different world than we did just a few months ago.
Oh, Jesus.
Anyway, what was pretty good this week was Mosaic #2. Did you read this?
I did, and it was actually much better than Mosaic #1. I enjoyed it a lot better. Oh.
Oh, we're off the rails. Anyway, so Mosaic is still trying to come to grips with his new abilities. If we saw in the last one, he transferred into the body of some kid that got shot. Now he's transferring himself out of that gunshot victim's body into another guy. He picks up some military know-how with this guy because it turns out that this dude is some sort of paramilitary Blackwater operative or whatever. And his whole goal is to get to his father and back into his original body and assure everyone that everything's okay. It's not really working out for him so well, as his father's locked down the hospital pretty tight. There's an interesting bit with Captain America in here, which I think may play into what's coming with Mosaic. What you're really getting in these first couple of issues are an introduction to the character, who he was before his Inhuman transformation, how he deals with his Inhuman transformation, and the person he's going to be after. And I think this interaction that he has with Captain America vis-a-vis the guy that he jumps into from the military is going to have some influence on his decision making as to what he's going to do with himself going forward.
There you go.
Yeah, wasn't half bad.
No. Okay. Where am I at? I'm trying to compose myself again. Okay, the World of Wakanda. Yes. Yeah. This is not what I thought it would be at all, but it is the training of some young ladies who will be, I guess, what you would call special forces there in Wakanda. It's the headquarters.
Yeah, they're the personal bodyguards of the royal family.
Of the Dora Milaje. Milaje, sure. Yeah, okay, whatever.
It tells you on the very first page how to pronounce it.
Okay, somewhere. Yeah, whatever. Where? Okay, well, fine, whatever. And we follow these girls through training. We follow them through the Namor attack. Falling in love with each other, following them graduating school. There you go.
Yeah, it's basically the fleshing out of that story of who these characters are. We also get a little more about some of the other characters that we're seeing in the main Black Panther book. And I think the main point of this World of Wakanda book is to explore and flesh out some of the other characters in Wakanda and the Black Panther family.
Yeah. It wasn't bad. It just wasn't what I was expecting.
Well, it's very informative because particularly at the end there, you get you get some information about some different characters, but you also get a map of Wakanda that tells you where all the major cities are, where their borders are, major bodies of water.
Now that was interesting.
Yeah, you get some geography about Wakanda, and that helps you understand what's going on and why the conflicts that exist within Wakanda exist as they do.
Right.
Yeah, man. Good stuff. I've enjoyed it. I enjoyed the first issue.
Right. Yeah, it wasn't bad.
Yeah. Daredevil 13. So when we last saw our heroes, Muse was in a courtroom, and remember, Muse is this weird artist guy who's murdering Inhumans. He's in this courtroom, and he's taken a judge hostage. Luckily, Blind Spot's there to handle things. Blind Spot chases him into the sewers where he's able to subdue him long enough to free Muse's prisoners. Unfortunately, as Blind Spot is trying to escape from Muse himself, he's captured by Muse, and Daredevil doesn't know where he is. It was a very Blind Spot heavy focused issue.
I enjoyed that.
I did too, because he's a new character and we got to see more of him. And yeah, it was good to see him get some character development.
Yeah.
Also, again, the art in this book is just killer. I really think this Charles Soule run on Daredevil is going to be, when we're going to look back on it in years to come, as one of the runs that really defined Daredevil. You know, you have your Frank Miller run, you have your Bendis and Alex Maleev run, and I think you're going to have this Charles Soule, Matt Miller run as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's very good. So that brings us to Solo number 2.
I enjoyed this book too.
It was all right. It was okay. So Solo has infiltrated the motorcycle gang where he's trying to get Dum Dum Dugan's undercover agent out, and it doesn't go exactly as planned. They're testing some weapons, and finally he gets the guy back behind his hologram, and somehow Solo's hologram doesn't work with this guy's hologram. They find out they're there, and then everyone comes after them, and it all goes to pieces fairly quickly.
Yeah, it's some weird techno babble, but yeah, essentially they're outed by the gang that they're trying to subvert, and it doesn't go well.
Yeah, and it's okay.
I enjoyed it. I thought it was good.
I did too. I in the past, Solo has always been a very competent character. In this book, makes him look incompetent, and I could do without that.
Okay, okay, I can respect that. Then we have Gwenpool number 8, which this was a really. I'm not going to do it justice here in the review because you just have to read it to understand some of the jokes here. But it's a really funny book.
And here's the thing. Let me stop you before you begin.
Yeah.
A lot of times when we review Deadpool and Gwenpool and maybe even some of these Spider-Man books, it's hard for us to convey all the humor that's in these books. I mean, we can recap them, but without just telling you joke by joke by joke, it's hard to convey how funny they are.
Right. And even if we did convey the jokes to you in the book, they wouldn't ring the same as having the context of the book in front of you. So understand this book is hilarious.
Yeah.
So Gwen is still being pursued by these squid alien things. She manages to escape back to the MODOK base and comes up with a plan to take them all out while also avoiding capture by police. And it involves Batroc being very French. Her idea, and it's funny because it's explained in like a cutaway segment, and Batroc's going to go to the United Nations and kick all the United Nations delegates in the head and go "Vive la France" and jump out the window, and it's supposed to be very French and funny. So that's supposed to be a big distraction. She has some other ideas for distractions for the police. And she's going to confront these aliens in Times Square and take them all out, kill them all, so that they don't eat her. But they won't get captured by the police. So all of this gets spoiled when her client shows up, because he's the guy that's super normal dude who wants to go back to a time where there are no heroes. And he foils her plan because he not only does he think it's dangerous, he really is more interested in the world that she's come from, where there are no superheroes. And there's also and I'm not going to tell you about it, but there's something that happens around the last page, and it's an interesting reveal.
I wanted to talk about that.
Oh, we can.
And we've already warned them about spoilers.
Yeah.
So
Gwenpool shoots him in the face, and it doesn't kill him. And he looks up, and it's like he was wearing a mask. And
is he a
underneath,
robot or is that a Doctor Doom mask?
it looks like Doctor Doom, man.
It does look like Doctor Doom. I mean, either the artist just didn't know how to draw a regular robot,
Dude,
or that seriously looks like Doctor Doom.
Yeah, that's not a coincidence.
Doctor Doom isn't Doctor Doom anymore. He's Victor Von Doom, and he looks like himself. A good guy.
Yeah.
So is that a Doombot out of control?
Well, we'll have to read the next issue to find out, Pat. You'll have to read Gwenpool number 9.
I guess, man. That's good storytelling when it leaves you with something like that hanging.
Yeah. Well, like we discussed on What's Next, we talked about how in the first issue of the FF, they're all fighting each other. Not everybody's perfect. And that, the bad guy gets away at the end. That's what brings you back to the issue number 2. Holy crap, the bad guy got away. What are they going to do? And you buy issue number 2, and then you buy issue number 3, and all of a sudden you have a closet full of comic books. And yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Absolutely. And then you also have Deadpool Back in Black. I forgot I was reviewing this, so give me a second to open it up.
Yeah, because I didn't read it.
That's okay. Essentially, Deadpool and Black Cat team up. Felicia Hardy. They team up, and they're going to go. She thinks he's Peter Parker. And this is in the 80s, just after they've broken up. So she's like pursuing him all over the city. And he's like, listen, we'll make out later, but let's go patrolling first. Where they run into the White Rabbit, who's a rabbit-themed villain, robbing a bank. They decided that they're going to stop her, but she sicks a bunch of genetically engineered super virus bunnies on them, and they're trying not to get bitten by the crazy radioactive bunnies. Meanwhile, Killer Thrill shows up, who's been pursuing Deadpool this whole time because she wants the Clintar costume that he's wearing. Shows up, kills all the rabbits. That makes White Rabbit upset. So now you've got this 3-way fight between Deadpool and Black Cat and White Rabbit and Killer Thrill and all of her guys. It doesn't go well for anybody. Killer Thrill gets away, but not after Deadpool pretty much kills the other 2 guys that she's been hanging out with. And then looks like now Kraven the Hunter's coming after Deadpool. So everybody's after Deadpool.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. It's all right.
Yeah. So next we have Power Man and Iron Fist number 10. Do you understand who this gang of people is on the first couple of pages?
The Fang Gang?
The Fang Gang.
They're a bunch of old Power Man and Iron Fist villains from back in the day, was my assumption. I know who Black Mariah is.
I mean, I know who Black Mariah is.
I know who Cottonmouth is. I know who the Cockroach Dude is.
We just call it the Fang Gang and leave on with it. So we begin with the Fang Gang back in the day. Then we skip to Power Man and Iron Fist beating up some thugs. Then they go back to their offices where they're late for a meeting, which it's quite a meeting actually, because there is
basically all the superheroes.
It's not all, but it's a lot of them. It's most Avengers, most champions.
It's pretty much all your A-listers.
Yeah, the head of Hydra, Steve Rogers, is there. Wolverine's there. Daredevil's there. Doctor Strange is there. So what they explain is how that app is wrongfully imprisoning people. And they say, look, we've had our differences recently, and we've spent a lot of time beating up people recently. But if you, because of this app, wrongfully imprison someone, we're going to beat you up. That's the long and the short of it.
Mm-hmm.
And they, everyone looks at him and says, okay. Yeah, so then we go back to different members of this gang who are putting things together with Felicia Hardy, who
Yeah,
doesn't like being called abroad.
yeah. Well, let me stop you right here. This is not the first time that we've seen Felicia Hardy do stuff here. We keep seeing her pop up in the Spider-Man books and here and some of the other books. She's really vying for control of the crime syndicates of New York City. She aims to be the new kingpin, and she just might do it.
Well, Peter Parker ticked her off a while back.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to remember how.
Yeah, I don't remember either.
Oh, it was Dr. Octopus when he was Superior Spider-Man, didn't know who she was.
Yeah.
And he I forget what he did. I forget what he did.
He got her arrested. She went to jail because of him.
And didn't know who she was and treated her like she felt she shouldn't have been treated, and she swore vengeance and has been on a tear ever since.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think they're building up to something. I don't think this is just idly, oh, hey, we can use Felicia Hardy. I think there's something going on here. There's more to it.
Yeah. So anyway, so then dude shows up and tells him he lost the device and lost the app. And we keep seeing this gang get back together. And then we find out that this kid is behind the app and the device. And I don't know if I'm supposed to know who this kid is or not. I guess I'm supposed to know who he is.
I didn't know who he was.
I didn't either. His name's Alex Wilder, former runaway, aspiring crime boss back from the dead. I have no idea who he is.
The only thing I understood was he used to be a runaway, so I guess he's a good guy gone bad.
I guess. I don't know, man.
Yeah, but I don't know what that's about. I'm not familiar with him really.
This is probably the best issue of this book so far. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was pretty good. I enjoyed it myself.
Yeah.
That's all of our Marvel books this week. We're moving on to Star Wars, which we had Poe Dameron number 8. So as we begin the issue, Poe is frustrated as he has learned that Terrax has a mole inside the Resistance, and maybe even inside Black Squadron itself. And he has no idea who it might be. So now he's questioning every friendship he's ever had. And he's very upset about it. Later, we get a flashback scene of the Battle of Jakku many years ago, which was the official fall of the Empire. Terrax is forced into hiding as a former stormtrooper. He and his other stormtrooper companion go into hiding and try to figure out what to do next. And the dynamic here is that his companion's all ready to leave this life behind. You know, as soon as he saw that Star Destroyer come down out of the sky, he was like, cool, throw off the helmet. Okay, we're done with this. I'm done being a soldier. I'm just going to go be a dude now. But Terrax is a true believer. He is dedicated to the Empire's ideals. And that's how we see, and I guess that's how he got here as he is today. Meanwhile, Poe Dameron is visited by C-3PO on official orders from Princess Leia. He's given a mission to retrieve a Resistance droid that may have picked up information, important information relating to the First Order. And it's I love this because it's revealed that C-3PO is this sort of droid spy master. He has droids everywhere, always listening. And he kind of explains it as, you know, by the nature of being droids, we're just kind of everywhere. We hear everything, and no one thinks to consider any of that because, you know, they're just droids. So if you're a Game of Thrones fan, he's the you know, C-3PO is Varys and the droids are his little birds. I don't know, just the idea of, and they all report to C-3PO. And the idea that of C-3PO being like a spy master of the galaxy is, that's brilliant.
That is pretty good.
It's great.
I mean, I didn't think about it when I read it, but that's pretty good.
Yeah. So Poe's mission and Terrax's goals both lead them to a planet called Kadak, where I'm sure they will run into one another. Oh, and there's this giant crystal in the middle of the planet. I'm sure that won't be important at all. No,
Nah.
not at all. Good issue. It was good. I enjoyed it.
Very good issue.
Yeah, I've enjoyed this Poe Dameron series. That's all of the books this week. Pat, which one was your favorite?
I don't know. I was sitting here reading one of these X Factor books that got dumped. That's a good question. Probably that Captain America book.
Oh, really?
Yeah, hang on. Let me consider it some more. Not a Clone Conspiracy #2.
Okay, that was a good one.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to go with Invincible Iron Man #1, just because I've been looking forward to this for so long.
That was a good contender too.
Yeah, and I'm just really interested in these characters.
Yeah.
So, so speaking of the X Factor books that are in the dump this week, why don't you tell us about the dump?
It's just kind of a hodgepodge of books. They're still trying to fill out X Factor, which I'm glad, because I'm really fond of that X Factor series.
I never read it.
It's particularly those early books. I'm really fond of, and I'm glad to see them filling it out. There's some Fantastic Four annuals there, which are always interesting. And there's just a hodgepodge of stuff, man. Some Force Work stuff, a Hobgoblin miniseries, a Fear Itself book. It's
a real mishmash.
Yeah, man. I don't know what's going on here. Anyway.
Cool. Well, it's good to know that they're always adding more stuff to Marvel Unlimited.
They are. And these are if you try and go read some of these series, there's just gaps. And this is filling in the gaps, and I'm glad to see him doing it.
Yeah. So your classic read this week is something completely different. I talked about The Punisher earlier. I actually stumbled upon this, not realizing it existed, completely by accident, just having scrolled through looking for a different series altogether. But it's a book called Frankencastle. So here's what happened. The Punisher is literally ripped apart into pieces by Daken, who is the son of Wolverine, on the orders of Norman Osborn. He kills the Punisher. So the various pieces of his corpse are found by the Legion of Monsters, which is the organization that is Dracula and Wolfman and Man-Thing and the Mummy, monsters. And they reassemble the Punisher Frankenstein style. So the resurrected Punisher immediately gets back to the business of punishing. And he's just, it's literally undead Punisher back from the dead, like Frankenstein's monster. So the series is written by Rick Remender, of all people. Punisher takes on this like Reagan era 80s punk rock kid as a sidekick. His name's Henry. You've got undead Punisher killing bad guys, and it's way better than any of this Monster Unleashed crap that they're about to inundate us with. Plus, the art's really good. And if you're going, this sounds real stupid, just read the first issue. It's actually pretty good. There's a whole scene where, the first issue is them putting Frank Castle back together and bringing him back from the dead. And his assistant is there with him, or his sidekick, Henry. And Henry has spent this entire time tending to his wounds, changing his bedpans, keeping Frank from decomposing while they put him back together. And is literally the first thing Frank Castle says as he awakens into undeath from the void. He looks at Henry and says, "You found any work for us?" And of course, Henry, being completely fed up with this crap, is like, "Have I found any work for us?" "No, Frank, I haven't." "You know why? Because I've been keeping you from decomposing and changing your bedpans and dealing with these monsters and trying to set up a laboratory. No, Frank, I haven't found any work. It's funny. You just got to read it. It's issue 17 through 23. That's all that's on there. I don't know if that's all that they did of Frankencastle before they restored him to his normal body or whatever. But yeah, it's a unique read. It's a deep cut from the depths of the long boxes.
That is. I'm looking at it. That's interesting.
Yeah. I thought it was pretty good for something I
you
literally just accidentally stumbled upon and went, Frankencastle, what the heck is that?
There you go.
Yeah. Well, I think that pretty much wraps us up for this week. If you want to get in touch with us and tell us what you thought of Frankencastle, email us at 6monthsbehind@gmail.com. That's the number 6monthsbehind@gmail.com. Please also visit the website,
www.6monthsbehind.com.
And also remember what's next. You can listen to that coming up soon. We're going to be doing, this is a whole new podcast that we're doing. So it's going to be us hitting the highlights saying, here's what you need to read in the Marvel Universe.
Yep.
And before we go, Pat, as always, do you have any wisdom for our true believers?
When I'm bored, I send a text to a random number saying, I hid the body. Now what?
Oh, Lord. It seems like a good way to get the police called on you. Well, all right, guys. We'll see you next week.
Peace.